Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's event hosted by the Warsaw Institute 3Cs Initiative Impact on Western Balkans, Developmental and Strategic Implications. My name is Maciej Tyburski and I will be moderating today's debate. I extend my warm welcome to my today's guests, Professor Dumitru Tudor-Zizie from Alexandru Ioan Cuza University of Iași. Welcome.
Thank you.
Alexander Arabacic, President of the Academy of European Careers. Good evening, Alexander.
Good evening, Maciej. Good evening, dear guests and friends from the panel.
And Michał Tosz, our expert from the Warsaw Institute. Good evening, Michał.
Good evening. Hello.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining. I think we can start our interesting debate. As we all know, it's been years since the Berlin process has started. It's been over 10 years since the last EU enlargement, and it's been 20 years now from the Thessaloniki summit, during which all Balkan countries were promised that the Western Balkans will become an integral part of the EU. Therefore, I have a question to you. We will start with challenges that Western Balkan countries are facing in the process of their accession to European Union. We'll start with Alexander Arabacic. Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maciej. Thank you for the pleasure to be the first. I think there are three main problems for the Western Balkans country, former Yugoslavia countries. There are three things. First thing is the intelligence and economical interference of big powers, mainly the authoritarians. We are talking about the Russian Federation and, of course, China, mainly economical influence. Of course, there is the topic connected with corruption, which the scale is not as big as it was, because there were some actions and laws which changed very much the situation in the former countries. We have to remember that, for example, Albania and Montenegro, they are part also of the North Atlantic of the NATO, and even when if you want to be part of NATO, you have to be a Western democracy. It's quite important that it's not so easy to be also part of the NATO. And of course, there's the biggest problem connected with the Western Balkans. This is the ethnical challenge and the conflicts, which all the time are a problem of the former Yugoslavia countries. We have to remember that ethnical conflicts were the seed of the war in the 90s between the former republics. This is our three, once more: intelligence and economical influence of global big powers, authoritarian global big powers, corruption, the problem with corruption, and of course, as I told last, ethnical conflicts, which all the time are a problem.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move to Dumitru Tudor-Zizia. Same question about challenges Western Balkans are facing in the process of enlargement. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Maciej. It's always better not to be the first. It helped me very much the fact that Alexander made the opening statements. I also noted three challenges, and one of them is commune. So I will start with this one, the interference of the big players, and I would add to Russia and China that have already been mentioned. The fact that all other regional players are there. So it's also Turkey is playing its story in the Balkans, in the Western Balkans. Arab countries, I mean Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, they are all there. So I think it's one of the areas in Europe right now with the biggest concentration of competing sometimes, many times competing solutions that are being offered to the states of the area, which emphasizes once again the importance, the strategic importance of the area that we'll probably address a little bit later, as I know. So this interference is also playing a role in unfortunately stimulating and reheating some from time to time some unsolved problems. Yeah, of course, they have an ethnical basis, but I would prefer to refer to them mainly as state problems. So we have problems between Serbia and Kosovo that had never been solved. We have problems in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And yeah, this is a big challenge for everyone. Especially because all these countries have to be addressed together if you want to have a sustainable solution in the Balkans. So that means that us, the countries from the Free Seas Initiative or European Union altogether, we have a very complex challenge from this point of view, addressing simultaneously a lot of problems, a lot of specificity. And this is my very last challenge that I want to share with you. The incredible, astonishing fragmentation of the area in terms of everything. So in terms of problems, in terms of economic development, there are various rhythms in terms of values, societal values, and so on and so forth. So all these three things are, from my point of view, important challenges to be addressed.
Thank you very much for your insights. Now we are moving to Michał Tosz with the same question about the challenges. Please.
Thank you for the invitation to this debate, first of all. After what my colleagues said, there is nothing more to add, I think, but I would like to share my own in this topic. If we take a look to the list of the countries that wanted to join the EU in the past, we can see that Poland, for example, it took 10 years from the beginning to the accession. For Bulgaria, it was like 12 years. For Croatia, it was also 10 years. Now, if we take a look to Albania, they started this challenge in 2009, so it was 15 years ago. For Serbia, it was 2009 also, so 15 years has passed, and we are not sure if they want to be a part of the EU and if the EU wants them to be a part of this project. The Serbia is a good example. We can see that their leaders, there is a huge influence of Russian Federation in this country. Last year there were massive protests of the opposition who were, let's say, more pro-democratic, pro-Western, and it's not sure that this country will be able to continue talks with the European Union. And I think similar problems are in every other Western Balkan country which is not a part of the EU right now.
Thank you very much. And thank you, gentlemen, for touching the topic of Russian influence. Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, and the new geopolitical situation that we are now in, which was triggered by the war in Ukraine, became a new opportunity to review the EU enlargement policy. And I want to ask you, has this really reviewed the policy, or will it help to review the policy so that EU will be more eager towards the possible enlargement of Western Balkans? Now I will give the floor to Dmitry Tudorzizie.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think it's mandatory to rethink the enlargement policy in terms of loosening a little bit the harshness of the process. I don't mean we have to give up to standards. After all the countries that are joining the club now, and our countries know very well, had to fulfill a lot of requirements, and these requirements have a lot of sense. But what I mean when I say a relaxation is needed, I mean two things. The first of them is the fact that many times the enlargement process was applied by the European entities like a list of requirements that is being checked from time to time. Well, of course, there are some grants that assist the countries within the process, but things are very, robotical style. Like you have fulfilled that, it's checked. You didn't, okay, you'll have to come again. So I guess we should imagine a more proactive approach in order to support these countries with their specificities. And I do not refer only to Western Balkans, I also refer to our eastern neighbors, Ukraine and Republic of Moldavia. So they need a more proactive approach, and this is one of the areas we can play a major role. This is number one. Number two, I really think that the integration should be done a little bit faster, and the process of complete harmonization to continue, maybe with a monitoring system. This is something that happened, for instance, for Romania and Bulgaria. I think this is also possible to be done for the Western Balkan countries and our eastern countries from the vicinity, because Europe is a unique project, is irrepeatable. It's been proved to be a great project in complicated areas. It's been proved to be a good solution for competing nations. Um, I think it's a good path to continue to follow, and we have to speed it up.
Thank you very much, especially for the statement that we need a relaxation and more proactive approach. Now I would kindly ask Michał Tosz for his insights on that topic.
So, when the war in Ukraine has started, every European country started to focus on also in the topic of the enlargement of the EU. And I have a feeling that a little bit forgot about Western Balkans, and we are talking about this region when something is happening there. What will gonna happen in the future, we don't know. It's complicated. There are a lot of issues, and I think that we should add that also the politics in are changing. We can see that in many Western countries there are massive protests right now, like in Germany and France. And I'm a little bit frightened that countries of European Union will focus on themselves in the future, and they will not be able to think about enlargement of the EU. And the war in Ukraine is another aspect that intensifies this aspect. So that's my opinion about the impact of of the war in Ukraine and its links with Western Balkans and its future.
Thank you very much. You are right that we don't know what will happen in future, especially in those tough geopolitical times that we live in now. Now we'll move to Alexander Arabadzic to share his views on the topic of possible review of formalized enlargement policy and the impact of war in Ukraine on that.
Thank you very much for this question. I think it wasn't mentioned before, but I think there's also one interesting thing for the countries of the region and societies which want to join the European Union, the big European family. It's quite important that after the war in Ukraine, there's also a change of statements in the Western societies. Because before the war, the approval for joining new countries to the European Union wasn't very big also in the Western countries such as France or Germany or Italy, or I don't know. They were more skeptical. After the war, there's also a very good example of Sweden and Finland, which have changed their view, not in EU this time, but in the security systems, and they wanted to join very fast the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and I think there is quite big and quite interesting thing for the countries of the region because of the change of view of the Western societies. It's quite big opportunity for them, and I think it will not last for long, and that would be good that the countries of the region will also faster do everything to, for example, to change things connected with rule of law, with economical system, and so on.
Thank you, Alexander, for sharing your views on that topic. Now, gentlemen, let's move on to the subject of 3Cs initiative, which is a interesting format of cooperation, which can accelerate the development of infrastructure, energy, digitization in the region. My question to you is, what is the current state of play in cooperation among 3Cs initiative, and how can this format accelerate the possible development which will maybe lead to enlargement in Western Balkans? Michał Tosz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, because I would like to start with a question. What will be a future of the 3Cs initiative? I'm asking that because this is a project which was started by President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, and also former President of Croatia was involved, and President of Romania, Klaus Iohannis. This project was strongly supported by previous Polish government. It was a conservative government of law and justice. Now, after the government has been changed, and there is a coalition led by Donald Tusk, and this is a liberal coalition. And there are a lot of debates in Poland right now about some economical projects started by previous governments, such as nuclear plant, central airport, and seaport in Świnoujście, and so on and so on. And I think that there should be another debate about foreign policy, because as we know, new government has a goal to strengthen relations with European Union and Germany, but also we have a lot of signs that they will focus a lot on Ukraine and helping Ukraine in military point of view, and also humanitarian and other things. And the question is, what will gonna happen with 3Cs initiative as a project? Will it be also strongly supported? Will it be continued? as it was in the past, or something will gonna change. Even if I think that other countries will have a strong supporter in Poland, countries who want to join the EU, because it was happening in the past, and there are a lot of declarations that it will be continued. So my opinion is that whenever Free Seas Initiative will be a project that will be that Polish government will be involved in, there will be a lot of actions that will be helpful for other countries who will want to join the EU. And it doesn't matter on what platform it will be happening.
Thank you, Michał, for touching the topic of the future of the initiative. And now I will kindly ask Alexander Arabadzic to take the floor with the same question of Free Seas Initiative cooperation and its impact on Western Balkans, and the future of Free Seas Initiative that was already mentioned by Michał Tosz. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Probably I have quite similar opinion as my fellow friend Mr. Tosh. It's we'll have to see what will be going with the 3C initiative in name, because I think the main directions connected with the 3C initiative, it's quite important to say it. Even in the law and justice government, it was quite important that 3C initiative should be compliant with, should be a part of, it cannot be, how to call it nicely, because I forget the word. It should be in, it shouldn't be an opposition to the European Union. It should be going as a strong initiative of former Eastern Central European countries as a part and eastern lung of the European Union. Maybe the name will be changed. Maybe it will be not called as, I don't know, the 3CIS initiative, but for example, the Central Eastern Europe initiative. But I think it will be not such a big change, because we have some common history, common cultural and political views in some way, and also we know much more, for example, than the western part of Europe, what are the problems connected with the Russian imperialism. That I don't think that the initiative in its seeds and in the common direction will change. Maybe the name will change, but the initiative as a coalition of Central Eastern European countries will be some part of making policy in the region.
Thank you for the insights given and for touching the topic of the possible change of name of the initiative and, let's say, reviewing the format of the initiative. Now let's move to Mr. Zizie, the same question about Free Seas initiative, and I will kindly also ask you for a statement regarding the future of the initiative.
Yeah, so the Free Seas initiative didn't appear in a vacuum. It was very well substantiated, and it has been continuously enlarging since the very beginning. I think that at every summit we have seen a new country joining or participating as an observer or presenting future projects that are of interest in cooperation with this structure. I think Alexander wanted to say that this project is complementary. I don't know if this is precisely the word he was looking after, but this is the word I thought when he was speaking about the idea of no competition with European Union project, because it was not meant to be, and it is not supposed to be this way. From my point of view, as a country from Western Balkans and from Eastern vicinity, I insist once again about that because I see them all together, after all. What strategical aims should you have as a country that is looking towards Western civilization? So you could have NATO, European Union as main projects, The first, it's about security. It's about offering solutions for future sustainable business. European Union, it's about the best club that exists in this area in terms of shared Occidental values and common market and big potential. And Free Seas Initiative and OECD are, from my point of view, the two complementary projects that can be strategic aims for the countries in our vicinity. OECD for being part of the procedures, and the Free Seas Initiative can be very useful for countries in Western Balkans because these countries could be connected to our logistic chains, for instance. They would also bring value with their opening towards the Adriatics and Mediterranean. This is quite important. Um, these countries should also have opportunities to better integrate with our administrative and support system. We could offer them a lot of support in making the steps towards European Union integration faster. And Professor Arabagic said very well that we know each other better. And when he was speaking, I was also thinking about something like not just like a corridor, but rather like two triangles. So Poland, Romania, with Moldova and Ukraine are a triangle. Moldavia, Poland, Romania, and the Western Balkans can be another triangle to generate better connections, and better security, better prosperity. So it makes a lot of sense to me, this project. I don't see any kind of reasons to stop it, just to enhance it, to make it more efficient in the future. All these countries from Western Balkans could be got all together and benefit of the expertise not only of Romania and Poland, but of the other countries that are involved into this process. And synergy in this situation offers better solutions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing the topic of OECD and the cultural, let's say, integration between our countries, which may bring us closer together and which may ease the accession. Now we have a question from our audience that I want to ask you. If turmoil in Western Balkans are we re- of if turmoil in Western Balkans, are we ready for possible negative impacts on transportation and trade, bridges, railroads, etc.? We'll start with Michał Tosz. So, are we ready for negative impacts of possible turmoil in Western Balkans when it comes to transport and trade?
There are also negative aspects and positive aspects, but I'm an optimist, and I think that we should concentrate on those positive aspects. Talking about negative, we can see the situation with Ukraine, with transportation of grain, which has influenced our markets in every Central Eastern European country, like in Poland, Hungary, and Romania, and we could see that there were mass protests of farmers after that, and so on and so on. And but we can take a look to the past, and we can remember how our countries was facing similar problems in the past. When Poland was entering the EU, we were a poor country from the Eastern Europe, and a lot of people from Western countries were looking at us as not a full member of European Union, just a country from Eastern Europe which was unknown for many people. So I think that with this experience we can look at other countries from Western Balkans and for Ukraine, and let's hope Belarus also in the future, and Moldova, Georgia, the same way, to know that there will be problems, but to focus on solving those problems together not to make some arguments.
Thank you very much. Now I will give the floor to Mr. Zizie. I will repeat the question. Are we ready for possible negative impacts on transportation and trade in case of turmoil in Western Balkans, specifically bridges, railroads, etc.?
Okay, now I completely understood the question. So if we are ready, okay, I was not very aware of this word. Well, I think we still have a serious need of infrastructure to connect us. And Free Seas Initiative is also about that. As a matter of fact, is mainly about that. So we should start working very fast to these better interconnections between us, because yeah, turmoil in this area could have an impact, at least in terms of unexploited opportunity, if not in a direct threat.
Thank you very much for sharing your opinion on that. And we're moving to Alexander Arabadzic with the same question. Alexander, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that, as it was mentioned before, infrastructure is the seed of the Three Seas initiative. That's why it can be quite helpful for the best funds and initiative of countries which are part of the Three Seas initiative. It's quite a good thing that it can help with the lack of infrastructure in the region, and I think that it's very nice. And I think I don't have anything more to add because it's not such a hard question.
Yes, thank you for that. I completely understand. Now I would like to ask you, gentlemen, for let's say a small forecast about the political future of our region, because in political discourse we may hear that there might be an enlargement in 2030. My question is, do you think this enlargement in 6 years is feasible? Is it possible? And if it is, will it trigger a domino effect in terms of accession of the rest of Balkan countries? What is your opinion on that? We'll start with Mr. Zizie.
Okay, so I would start with Michal, as a matter of fact, that mentioned in one of his interventions um, the fact that the European public opinion has changed in the last period of time, and there are some negative evolutions in the last period of time. So I would say this is something we have to focus very much on. This is a challenge for us all. What happens in the public opinion of European Western countries mainly, because we have all we have all been through several crises, consecutive crises that affected us all. But in the West, apparently the shock was paradoxically even bigger than in our countries. Um, so this is an aspect to continue to monitor. Number one. Number two, there are countries that are easier to be integrated, countries that are that are putting some more difficulties because of their specificities. So there are countries like North Macedonia, like Albania, like Montenegro that are already NATO members, that have already made some recognized steps towards the integration to European Union. So that could happen faster. When it is about the countries like, for instance, Serbia. Serbia was mentioned here. Serbia that has an unsolved problem with Kosovo, and it's not only about that, it's also, once again, about what the public opinion thinks in Serbia. Unfortunately, I saw some recent polls that do not show a big support for joining EU. I was aware of the fact that the Serbian civil society is not a big fan of NATO, that it's absolutely understandable. But I was surprised to see that there are also negative evolutions when it is about joining EU. So if a majority out there does not exist, I'm afraid this is once again something we should all work in order to support. And once again, the countries in the proximity, the countries on this axis of Free Seas Initiative are very well placed in order to win the hearts and minds of the Serbians for this project. So there are many factors. There are many factors. In brief, there are countries that could join faster. There are countries that put some problems. Personally, and I will stop here with my response. Personally, I would prefer to see them all together, because integrating them in several steps could generate jealousies through different neighbors. It's always better to have neighbors with problems all together integrated, but it's going to be a very hard task, a difficult one.
Thank you, thank you. It's really good that you've mentioned joining NATO by some countries, because as history shows, it's of course unofficial, but unofficially the countries that usually first joined NATO then joined European Union, which is of course not a rule, but this is, let's say, a trend in global politics. Now we'll move to Alexander Arabadzic with the same question of forecast of enlargement in 6 years.
I'm happy that you have mentioned. I'm very happy that you've mentioned NATO, because it's quite important to remember that the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is in the sea. When you read the treaty, it's mainly a political treaty and a political organization. After political, there is military, of course, importance. And as you said, if you are a member of NATO, it's easier to probably to be a member of European Union. The best example is Poland and Romania, which are countries from which we are, and also Croatia. It's also a member of NATO and European Union. I think the same, that probably the first countries, even maybe in this 2030, will be Albania. And no, I'm not sure about Albania, because we have forget about the ethnical conflicts, and there are some problems connected with NATO. But I think probably Montenegro, and Montenegro is quite on the best way to be the first of the countries from the former Yugoslavian countries, after of course Croatia. Maybe North Macedonia. They are also smaller countries. That's why it's easier to take them on a fastest quay to be the member of the European Union. We will see what will be going with Moldova, but we have to remember that there is the problem with the Transnistrian Republic, and I don't know what will be going there in 6 years, because we also don't know what will be how will be going the Russian Federation-Ukraine conflict. It's also quite important, because the Transnistrian Republic is some of the problems connected with Russian influence in the region. But North Macedonia and Montenegro, I think they have the quite big chances to become the members of the Union in 2030.
Thank you, Alexander, for your small forecast, and thank you for mentioning the case of the internal conflicts, which still are a matter of concern in that regard. And now, Michał Tosz, the floor is yours.
Some Russian threats were mentioned once again, and I think that we should remember about them, and there will still be there, and we have to hope that that war in Ukraine will be ended, and will be ended not good for Russia, and those influence on other countries will be a little bit smaller. So it's unpredictable how will be the future of all those matters. I'm an enthusiasm, and on the 1st May we will mark a 20th anniversary of of Poland in the EU. And I remember that it was a very enthusiastic moment. And I think that we have to find this enthusiasm once again, because we can see that there are a lot of populist parties in Europe, and it's always easy to blame European Union for everything, to blame it for its administration and so on. But it's a very good project. It's something that I can say that we haven't invented anything better. So I think that we should concentrate on expanding it and to make it work for many more years. So I won't answer the question precisely. I don't know what will happen in the future, but I'm an optimist, and I hope that it will just proceed and will be able to welcome another countries in European Union soon.
Thank you very much, Michał, and thank you, gentlemen, for your forecast on that topic. And with that question, we've come to the end of our today's event. I want to thank you so much for the debate and interesting insights given by you. I want to thank our audience for being with us today and for interesting questions from their side. Gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for joining me today. I wish you and our followers a nice evening and see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, too.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maciej. Thank you, Tudor. Thank you, Michael. And let's stay in touch. Bye.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.